If you're a music coach or you teach any sort of creative skill like dance, photo, music, and you have an online business, I'm going to talk about the top 3 biggest things that makes your business successful. So if you're beneath 20K per month and you're stuck selling your time, doing one-on-ones and not getting enough clients, I want to talk about the 3 things that are really going to make an impact on your business. There's so many different ways to be able to get your clients the results without you having to be there. So you shouldn't be selling your time and you shouldn't be stuck beneath 20K per month, because if it is, there's something that you can fix. And I'm sure it's probably one of these 3 things. And the first thing is the offer. This is the foundation, right? This is your money maker. This is the thing that you sell in return for people's money. So mistakes people make is attaching a limited resource to their offer. And that is usually time or physical presence. A lot of people's pricing models will be, I will teach you how to play guitar. It'll be $100 an hour. The problem with that, whether it's 100, 500, or $1 million an hour, you have to show up every time in order to get paid. And you only have 24 hours in each day. I have 24 hours. You have 24 hours. Elon Musk has 24 hours. We all just decide to use it a little bit differently. So if you want something that grows exponentially like your income, you should not attach a limited resource to this, because time is limited and also your physical abilities. So if I were to be in construction and I were to build you a building, I would physically have to put in labor, and there's only so much physical energy that I can put into doing this at one time. And so those are limited resources that you should disconnect from your earning potential. Instead of charging for your time or charging for a certain amount of work that you do, you should charge based on the value of what you provide. So there's this story about this factory. I forgot which book this was from, but it kind of goes something like, there was a factory that made millions of dollars per hour from the products that they made. And everything operates, they're pumping things out. The workers know exactly what to do. They're making millions and millions of dollars. At one point, the whole factory shut down. Nobody could figure out what the problem was. Everybody in the building was scrambling, looking around, looking for what the issue is, but nobody knew what it was. And every hour that passed by, they were losing millions of dollars. So that was the cost. It was of the opportunity that they were missing out on. So eventually they had to call in a third party to see if they could fix the problem for them. This guy comes in from this other company. He looks around for a couple minutes and he looks at this one screw. He takes a screwdriver. He turns the screw. Everything in the factory comes back on. Everybody's stoked. They're ready to get back to work. They're ready to make money. The owner asks, "This is amazing. How much is it going to cost me? How much are you going to charge me for this?" And the guy writes up this invoice and hands it to the CEO. And the CEO goes, $10,000 for you to turn a screw? And the guy said something really important. He said, well, it's $1 to turn the screw, but it's $9,999 to know which screw to turn. Nobody else in the factory knew which screw to turn. Just him. So it's not the fact that he turned the screw, because that's not worth very much. The physical labor, it's not that intensive. It wasn't the time. It only took a minute to turn the screw. And so what is he charging him for? He's charging him for the value of getting the factory back up and running. It has nothing to do with the screw, right? So that's what you should be charging based on. Like, if you help somebody achieve something, what is the potential that they can get from their life? The potential, the 2 options for that factory was that they either pay $10,000 and get the factory back up and running so that they can make millions each hour, or it would cost them millions each hour that passed by that the factory was not running. So that's where you should be focusing, is on how can I create more value and how can I charge according to that. So if you, let's say you teach guitar, instead of doing, hey, I'll teach you how to play guitar for $100 an hour, you want to think of the outcome that they truly want. Maybe they want to play like a professional so that they can land gigs and they can get paid for playing the guitar. What you teach them affect their career? How does it affect their status? Can it make them money? If what you do is valuable enough, then you should be charging based on that. So if you could get somebody to a position where they're playing guitar so well, they can audition with any band, they can land a gig, they can go on tour, they can play. That's the dream for a guitarist. So if you charge something like $3K or $5K, it's still a no-brainer in comparison to the value it brings. Another problem is thinking that your market can't afford something expensive. The problem is not that they can't afford it. The problem is that you haven't explained it well enough for them to realize that what you give is more valuable than the amount of money that you ask for in return. This is super, super vital. So I'm going to say it one more time. The problem is that you haven't explained it well enough for them to realize that what you give is more valuable than the money that you ask for in return. And why that is important is because people will always buy something they perceive as more valuable than the money that you ask for. So again, people are resourceful. They will get things together. They'll borrow money. They'll take out a loan. They'll do what they need to if they believe that what you give is more valuable. And to really tie this together, if somebody has an unshakable desire for something, they will trade their last penny to get to that outcome. So if they truly want to play guitar as a career, they will spend their last dollar to try to make it happen. So it's not the fact that they can't afford it. It's the fact that we just haven't explained it well enough. If I offered you $1 in return for $1, let's say we traded, how many dollars would you have? How many dollars would I have? $1. If we traded again, how many dollars? 1 on 1. So it's completely pointless. We can do that as many times as we want, but it's pointless each and every time because we end up with the same amount of money. However, if I offered you and I said, I'll give you $10 if you just give me 1, how many times would you make that trade? As many times as humanly possible, because it's 10 times the amount. So would there ever be a time where I offered you that and you said, no, I'd rather just have $1? No, right? And put aside that you think it's a scam or any of that. Like if it was 100% legit, I offered you $10 for your dollar every single time. Would you ever say no to that? No, because if we think it's more valuable, we're going to do it each and every time. So we just haven't articulated our offer well enough for somebody to truly see why it's valuable. And that's why they're not paying you. It's not because they're broke. I've sold to the brokest people ever, beat makers, musicians, they all have money. It's just a fact of, are we saying it in a way that's valuable enough for them to understand why it's worth more? Another thing is thinking that your problem is marketing, but really it might be your offer. So a lot of people say, I just need more people to see what I'm doing. But you're still in a point where you're charging hourly rates. So let's say you charge $100 an hour. You can only bring on a maximum of 24 people each day. And that's not including eating, sleeping, drinking, or any of that. That's just straight 24 hours, right? And you still have a cap to that. So even if you charge $1 million an hour, you still have a cap to your income. So it's not always the fact that you just need more people. It's not the marketing. It may be the offer. Because even if you get enough people, you're going to hit a cap. Or if you get a lot of people, but you sell something super cheap, you may not make enough to make up for the ad spend you had to spend in order to get those people. So even if you get more people, it's hard to profit. You don't have enough time, or you don't have a profitable product due to cost versus ad spend or time spend. And what this means is that if you have a $7 course, but you have to spend $30 to get somebody to buy that $7 course, you're not going to make enough money. And ads are getting more and more expensive. Or if you send cold DMs to try to sell a $7 product or a $100 product, it might not be worth your time because all that energy goes into selling a product that's not worth very much. So some people think marketing is their problem, but their true problem is the offer, the underlying problem. Raising your price is the easiest way to get profitable. And you don't want to just match the market. This is the biggest mistake most people make, is they look at the top guy in their market and they're like, okay, so he's the best and this is how much he charges. And then you look at the worst guy and you're like, I'm better than him, so I can charge more than him. You end up putting yourself in between the middle somewhere, and you give a slight discount just to make it a little bit more incentivizing for somebody to want to buy from you, right? And this is the worst place to be, because then you become a commodity. You offer the same thing. The only thing you can compete on is price. And the price competition is a constant race to the bottom, because the next person tries to lower the prices. The next person tries to lower their prices. And as a whole, the whole market starts to degrade in value. So the thing is too, when you're the most expensive, you're perceived as more valuable right off the bat, without them understanding anything. If I handed you 2 guitars, one was $99, one was $10,000. You've never heard either of these guitars before. You've never even heard of the brands. You've never seen them before. Automatically, if you were to make an assumption and I asked you, one was $99, one was $10,000, which one do you think sounds better? you automatically assume that the $10,000 one sounds better just because it's more expensive. So that's the framing you want for your prospects. You want them to look at your pricing and the competition's pricing and be like, what's the reason for this guy being so expensive, right? Some people might look at it and be like, that's way too much. That guy's a ripoff. But you don't want to work with them anyways. So you want to filter those people out. And you want to grab the interest of the people and be like, why is this one $10,000 when everybody else is charging 10? So right off the bat, that's how you get people's attention, and that's how you perceive it as more valuable. If I gave you a free plugin and one that was $200 for, like a music production plugin or something, you're automatically going to assume the one that costs more is more expensive. And even, let's go back to the guitar example. If I started playing that $99 guitar and you knew it was $99, you're going to start seeking for reasons. You're going to be like, oh, it sounds a little flat. Doesn't sound that great. It sounds a little tinny. I'll play the $10,000 guitar, and you'll start seeking psychologically, subconsciously, seeking for reasons why it sounds better. Oh, that does sound more clean, right? And you may be just tricking yourself, but the whole thing is that you're already making an assumption that one is going to be better than the other, just based on price. So that's a really strong positioning that you want to be in if you don't want to be a commodity. So what you can do is excel in value versus lowering the price. The reason why is there's a floor to your pricing. So if you charge 100, next guy charges 95, you try to beat him and you charge 85, then he charges 75. The only place you guys can go to is free, right? And if you're charging nothing, then you don't really have a business. However, if you go the other way and you raise the value, there's no ceiling to that. You can always add more and more value. Your price can only go to zero. So you can lower your price, but you'll hit a floor. Or you can go the other way and raise the value and there's no ceiling. And guess what? There's something called widening the gap. The wider the gap between the value and your price, the more likely somebody is to buy. So if it was even, people aren't very likely to buy because, again, you don't trade a dollar to get a dollar. The value has to be greater, and that's when people start buying. The wider this gap, the more yeses you'll get. So the cool thing about raising value is that you can continuously raise value and your price can increase. As long as there's a gap between the two, people will say yes. So there's no ceiling. That means your price can keep raising. No ceiling, price keeps raising. As long as that gap is still there, people will still say yes. Raising your price is also the best thing that you can do for your clients. I know this sounds very counterintuitive because most of the time we're like, I'm hooking you up, man. I'm going to give you a discount. But that's kind of doing them a disservice, right? When people pay, they pay attention. Uncomfortable investments means that they start taking uncomfortable actions. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. I believe in this so much because I went through the same thing. When I was trying to find ways to make money with my music, I would buy courses. And they were like $1,000, $2,000. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but it wasn't enough for me to just, stop everything I was doing, cut all my bad habits, uproot my lifestyle, and put everything into it, right? It was easier to say, okay, well, I'll just take the loss and then I'll make up that $1,000 the next paycheck and then everything will go back to normal. I'll work the job and I'll just have that normal life. So it's easy to stay comfortable when you don't have that much skin in the game. However, growth happens when you make uncomfortable investments. The first time I hired a coach that cost a lot of money, I got on the phone with them and I was ready to spend $1,000, like a big shot. I was like, I got a grand, let's go. They said it was $10,000. I was like, oh my God, that's 10 times more than I was expecting to pay. But I knew that if I didn't do it, the cost of inaction was way greater. And that's being stuck in a 9-to-5 that I didn't like until I was 65, too old to live my life, retire, live off my savings and 401k after inflation has completely destroyed me. And that cost was not something I was willing to do. And so I made the 10K leap. I took out a loan, borrowed money, took out money from my savings, and I made it happen. But the thing is, when I had that much skin in the game and I had that much on the line, I did every single thing that coach told me to do. No matter how uncomfortable it was, no matter how much I didn't want to do the things, I did it anyways. If I bought $1,000 course and they told me the exact same thing, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. But since I had so much on the line, I could not do it. I couldn't afford not to do it. And so I did it. And I ended up getting a result that I would never get unless I did it. And it completely changed my life. And that's why I'm here today, making this video, having my own business. And otherwise, I'd still be working a 9 to 5. I would not have time to make this video. So what's more beneficial? Selling someone a cheap product that they never use, or selling them something expensive that gives them a transformation? I believe B is way more effective. This is how you get happy clients, and then they can't shut up about your business. This is how you make a quick sale, and then people forget about you. So do you want to be the guy that sells the cheap product, or do you want to be the expensive guy that gives people transformations? Also, I want to note that I'm not saying that people who don't have money aren't serious, but most people can't afford a $100 product and kind of ignore it. Most cannot afford something that's thousands of dollars and ignore it. And again, that's situational, right? But the best way to cover your bases is to focus on the masses. Most of the masses, they make like $5K a month, which is, a good living. And so they can't really buy something that's like $10K, $12K and completely ignore it. It's just a big investment for them. Obviously, there's levels to it. At the time, a $10K investment was a lot for me. If I made a $10K investment now, I'd be like, that's okay. Like I can ignore it, right? But for me now at this point, I have to invest like $100,000 to be like, okay, I need to pay attention. And so you just want to think about your audience, and you want to think where the masses is. And then you want to charge according to what makes them uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable investments means they take uncomfortable actions, and growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Okay. So that's the offer. That is the foundation of everything. The second thing is the marketing, making people know that what you sell exists. That's what marketing is all about. And these are some of the mistakes people make. People underestimate what it truly does, what marketing truly takes. They think, I'll just make some posts of me playing the guitar and people will think it's so cool that they'll want to pay me money. It's not usually how it works. There's a lot of strategies when it comes to talking about people's pain points, their desires. And a lot of people think that the product will kind of just sell itself. It's like, that's true to a degree. The problem with that is, like, if you think the product is going to sell itself, you constantly end up talking about the product. And people don't buy the product to have the product. I know that sounds super weird, but they buy the product because they believe it'll change their life in one way or another. So people don't buy coaching time with you. They don't buy lessons from you. They don't buy modules. They don't buy hours of videos. They don't buy how many videos there are. They buy all this stuff because they want a certain transformation for themselves. So you should not be selling the product. You should sell the need. And this is the mistake a lot of people make. I see constantly on people's sales pages, you get 300 hours of video content. They don't want the product. They want the need. So if you get this product, it's going to change the way that you play guitar forever. Right now, you probably get on stage and you're a little bit shy because you have all these nerves built up. What this product will help you do is be so confident that you can get on stage each and every single time and nail your performance every time, no questions asked. That's the need. That's what people truly want. And so that's what we should be focused on selling. But most people sell the features and not as much the benefit. Another mistake people make with marketing is they spend a little on ads. Ads are getting more expensive. The fight to be seen is more competitive, and everybody is on Facebook and YouTube ads right now. So the more people that are fighting for that space, the more expensive it's going to get. And something that I've noticed is, like, people will say, like, well, I have an ad budget of this, or I have an ad budget of that. If that is the thing that you're saying, you're not doing ads right. Here's why. The whole purpose of ads is that if you put money in, you're making more money out of it. And if that's not the case, then you're not doing ads right. If you have a budget and you can only spend so much, it means that you're not doing ads right. Because again, if there was a machine where you could just put $1 in and magically it just spat out $3 every time, how many dollars would you put in? All of them, right? Like, you would triple your investment. And that's how ads should be, is like, if you're putting in $1 and you get $3 out, you should put in all your dollars. So the first thing you got to do, you got to understand about ads is it doesn't always work right away. You got to figure out different angles and different ways to approach it until you dial it in and you crack the code. So first you're spending money on learning to figure out how to crack the code. And then once you've cracked that code, that's where you funnel in as much money as possible. So most people will spend a little bit of money, assume that it's super cheap. They say it doesn't work, and then they cut it off, and they've never cracked the code. And so it never becomes effective, and then they say ads don't work. So that's a massive mistake. Another one is constantly talking about themselves in their marketing. They're constantly talking about their accolades. They're like, I went to school with this. I went to school here and I worked with this people and worked with that many people. I toured with this guy. The thing is, people don't care about all that. At the end of the day, they care about themselves and how your product can actually change their life. They're in it for them. So they're constantly talking about the product. They're talking about their accolades. And they're selling features, but nobody wants to buy the product for the product. They buy the product for how the product affects their life. Think about this. Do you buy a plane ticket to fly on an airplane? Like you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna buy a ticket next month. Like I really just have this urge to jump on an airplane. Nobody does that. They buy a plane ticket because they want to get to a destination. They want to get to their vacation. They want to get to their family. So that's what you should be selling. You don't sell the plane ticket to be like, dude, check it out. You're going to be sitting in coach. You're going to be sitting with the Gen Pop and you're going to be sitting between two people. Then it's going to take forever. That's not the thing, right? And again, people don't buy courses because they want courses. They don't buy coaching because they want coaching. They want a certain result. And that's what you should be talking about in your marketing. The people who sell the most talk about the benefits the customer gets when they have the product. They buy the information for a transformation. Not for videos, not for lessons, not for your time. They want a change, a fix, or solution. And so that's what you should be talking about. And sometimes people bring up the wrong problems that attract the wrong clientele. And I did this for so long because I didn't know any better. But we're always taught to talk about pain points and desires when it comes to marketing. But you really, really want to be careful with the type of pain that you bring up. So if I were to say, hey, are you a guitarist who works a long job and by the time you get off work, you just don't have the energy to put into your instrument anymore. And so you feel burnt out. Who's that going to attract? It sounds like it attracts somebody who has the problem that you fix. But at the same time, you're subconsciously attracting procrastinators. You're attracting people that don't try. And that comes down to your messaging. And you may not realize it, but that's what happens. Instead, you should describe the specific pain in a specific situation that they are currently going through. So you've all heard the saying, like, if you can describe somebody's situation better than they can, they automatically assume you have the solution to it. That's what's happening here. In books, they say it was a fall day in September. It was raining. It's so descriptive because it helps the reader imagine the entire picture in their head. What you want your prospect to imagine in your marketing is the situation they're going through. And if they can relate to it, they're going to be like, how did he know? How do you fix it? Right? So if you said something like, are you posting your guitar videos on social media every single day, day in, day out, but you're not reaching the amount of people you know you could truly reach. So you're putting in the effort, but you know something is wrong and you know you could affect more people and reach more people if you knew how to fix that problem. Who does that attract? That attracts somebody who's trying because they're posting every single day. If they weren't doing that, they're not going to resonate with that message. It attracts somebody who knows they have a problem and they're problem aware and they're looking for a solution. So if you say something that's broad or general, it brings in a lot of low quality leads. Talk about pain from a situation only high quality leads are going through. Make it unrelatable to low quality leads. Sometimes I'll even talk about finances. Like if I talk about coaching and I'll say, hey, are you someone who's making like 10K per month, but you're spending all your time running around putting out fires? Who's that going to attract? Like somebody that's not making 10K is going to be like, that's absurd. I can't even relate to that. So then they're just going to ignore my ad. But the people that are going through that situation, they're going to be like, how does he know that? Right? So another problem is people stay broad to try and reach more people. The problem with that is it's hard to describe a step-by-step situation like I was just talking about when you stay too broad. Because if there's not a specific person you're talking about, you can't really describe a specific situation. Everybody's situation is different. If you have low capital, meaning you don't have enough money, you should be specific. You don't have the money to be testing and throwing it around all over the place to a bunch of different people. You would be wasting money. Make more money by helping a specific person first. Then you take that money and you start broadening out over time. Most niches are bigger than we think too. Some people will say like, well, my niche just isn't that big. There's not enough people that do it. You'll be surprised how many times our niches are way bigger than we think they are. So go narrow first and then broaden out. Just because you're picking a niche, it doesn't mean that you're cornering yourself. It just means that you're, instead of shooting a shotgun because you only have so many, pellets, you are snipering and going after one specific person. You help enough of that demographic, you get more capital, and you start broadening. And the final thing is sales. Sales is the third biggest missing piece, and it's the final step between you and payday. So a mistake is that people start getting desperate because they need volume, and that stems from having a cheap product. So if you have a cheap product, you need more buyers. If you wanted to get to $5,000 a month, but you have a $100 product, how many people do you need? You need more volume, and that's where this desperation comes in. People can smell the desperation, right? They have a term for this, and it's called commission breath. It's like when you go to the car dealership and the guy's like chasing you down. He's like, what can I help you with? Like, what's the car that you need, right? People can smell that from a mile away. And that stems from you being desperate, and you being desperate comes from you needing more volume. So the easiest way to fix this desperation so that it doesn't happen is to change your offer and your marketing. So again, if you look at the triangle, the bottom foundation is the offer, the marketing, and the sales. It's not always fixed in the area we think it is. Sometimes it's the root. And so the easiest way so that you're not desperate is to change your offer. If you need less sales, then you're not as attached, or you're not as desperate. If you had more opportunity, you're not as attached, you're not as desperate. So again, if you changed your price and made it a higher price, you would need less sales. If you were better at your marketing, you would have more opportunity and you would be less desperate about making each and every sale. Selling to people who are not a good fit. Again, this comes from desperation, and buying. What you need to do is you need to buy the ability to say no. And that again comes from raising your prices and doing better marketing and attracting the right people so that you have an abundance of people you can speak to and you're not desperate and you don't care if this person says no. You need to buy the ability to say no to people who are not a good fit. There's been times where I've sold people into my program and I didn't believe they were a good fit, but I needed money at the time. And I can admit that it's not the best thing, and I hate doing that. And it's always turned out to be a bigger headache because then you have to refund the person and they're like, I don't want to do this. And then you have to, it's just this huge headache and it just becomes worse, right? So you need to buy the ability to say no, and that's very valuable. Thinking sales has to be shady is another mistake. It's just really your mindset around sales. And this is the best way to put it. Sales is not something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone. So getting them to take uncomfortable action makes them do the thing they already know they need to do, but they're scared of doing it. Because if somebody knew how to hit their goals, they knew exactly what they were doing, they wouldn't be speaking to you. They wouldn't need you. They'd already be at their goals. So there's certain things that they know they need to do, but they're scared of doing it. If they put a lot of skin in the game, that's what's going to get them to take those actions. And the thing is, the intention behind the sell is the game changer. If somebody has the intention to just make money, doesn't plan on providing a good service, that changes the entire game. If somebody is selling somebody because they believe that their service is going to be the thing that changes that person's life, the game is completely different. It turns into something positive versus negative. So it's your whole mindset around it. You want to first make sure that you can help somebody. And if you believe in your product so much, then you will make sure that you sell them, because it's something you're going to be doing for them because it's advantageous for them. It's not something you do to them. If that's the case, then you shouldn't be here. We don't want to do sales and sell people something they don't need. So to increase your sales, what you got to do is first find the problem and then you present the solution. It sounds so stupid obvious, but you want to find the problem before making an offer. This removes price hunters, right? Because why would the price of something matter if you didn't even know what you were buying? Some people will say, first thing, they're like, well, how much is your service? How much is your service? How much is that product? How much is your course? But they don't even know what is in it. And those are the people that aren't going to buy from you anyways, because they're just going to measure it based off of the cost. It could make them $1 million, but because it costs $1,000, they're like, I don't have $1,000. I don't want it. You don't want to deal with those people. You want to deal with the people that find value more important than the price. And you can do this by finding exactly what their problem is. If you speak to somebody and ask them what their problem is, this evokes emotion because the customer is speaking the problems and resurfacing their pain in their mind. A lot of the things your customers are going through, They're probably bottling, they're hiding it deep underneath, and they haven't spoken about it for a long time. If you get them to say what the problem is, it evokes their emotion because it resurfaces this pain. So it puts them in this emotional state where they actually want to take action. Plus, it gives you context and you know exactly what you need to sell them. And you want to sell them solution based on what they told you. If your product fixes it, first of all, again, morality. If your product fixes it, then you should sell them the solution based on what they told you. If not, you should say no. Talk about what they said. That's what matters to them, not your features. Somebody came to me and they said, my problem isn't getting traffic. Like, I have enough people, I have enough leads, but it's truly creating an offer. I just don't know how to make an offer that's worth enough so that I can actually sell it to these people. Well, even though it's in my program to teach you how to get traffic and get leads, I'm not going to sit there and try to sell that and say, well, I'm going to show you how to get leads, because I'll then try to like convince them of the reason why they need leads. I'm just going to say, hey, this is what I'm going to help you with. I'm going to help you create the offer so that it's actually worth enough so that you can actually sell it to your people and they can get them the transformation. Sell them based on the thing that they think they need. That's how you increase the likelihood of you closing deals. I know this was a long one, but just to recap, the offer, the marketing, and the sales is going to be the biggest 3 things that move your coaching business. If you found this helpful and you want more help with this, I'm going to leave a link down below for you to book a call with me. I can show you how to grow your coaching business so that you can charge a high ticket price for your offers, whether you teach music or any creative skill. I can show you how to market it. I can show you how to do the sales. So if you want to learn more about that, I'll leave a link down below so that you can book a call with me. But regardless, I hope this was helpful, and please subscribe if it was and share it with your friends.